Hi guys, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Nosenje. Today I'll share with you how to prepare for your Nclex-Rn examination, what materials I reviewed in my preparation, exactly how I use these materials, as well as test taking strategies, tricks and tips that will help you pass this examination easily. I'll also be reviewing two very popular Q banks with you, UWorld and Hatcher. I'll give you a review, what I think about these materials and which one of them I highly recommend. Without wasting much of our time, let us get right into the details for today. The first thing I want you to have at the back of your mind as you prepare to take this test is these three C's. The first C is content, the second is commitment, and the third is common sense. Content is simply you building your content, what you need to know. On the NCLEX, you're a new graduate nurse with just 2 weeks of work experience, which means that they do not need you to know everything, but they want you to know what you need to know, what they expect you to know as a new grad. And what you need to know is what every other person, every other nurse preparing to take this examination knows. There are things that are not to know. You don't need to know them. What is most important are the things that you need to know. This is what we want to build our content on. The second C, which is commitment. This process requires dedication, hard work, and consistency. There's no shortcut. Forget about what other videos you might have watched before this one. I tell you, you need to put in so much hard work. Depending on what kind of job you do, if you have a full-time job, this will determine how much of time you need to dedicate to your Nclex-Rn examination preparation. I have broken this down into 3 easy steps so you go along with me more easily. The first step is for you to believe in yourself. As easy as this might sound, not a lot of people believe in themselves. Some people have already been filled with so much fake news, so much fear for the examination that they have lost confidence. Either you are a first-time taker, or you're a second-time taker, or third-time taker. The missing factor may just be a change of mindset, which is for you to believe in yourself. If you study in fear for this examination, you will miss out on a lot. So it is really, really important that you study with so much confidence. Have a change of mindset right before you start preparing for the examination. You can do it. Trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. You only need to have so much faith in yourself. If you have problem with building your confidence, being motivated, being inspired, you might need to take therapy that helps you to boost your confidence. You might need to speak with me, a nurse coach, to support you, to boost your confidence, to inspire you. You can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. I always share inspiring content that pushes you, that makes you know that you have got this. The second step is building your Nclex content. I highly recommend Saunders comprehensive review for the Nclex-Rn examination. I'm sharing with you what I have used, what I trust. At the end of you studying this book, there is almost nothing you have not seen. So when you're walking into that examination, you're walking in confident. But be careful. You won't know everything. Get into that examination seeing things that you've never seen before. And this is where you plug in common sense. Okay, this is where common sense comes in. You will have to take away the unfamiliar word from that question and use your common sense to answer that question. So they are not just testing you on content, they are testing your common sense. They are testing how you can think, how you think. Examination is a comprehensive test. It's testing your critical thinking. It's testing how much you know. It's testing you across different types of questions. Question is testing your abilities. It is a computer adaptive test. It adapts to your level. It adapts to how much you know. So as you answer some questions, some particular set of questions, the computer can determine, I think this is a strength, and it will keep bringing you different types of questions from the areas that it has identified as your strengths. That's why you realize that your questions might start getting tougher and tougher. And trust me, if your questions are getting tougher, it's good news. It means that you're doing well. If your questions are toggling between hard and easy, and my darling, you might not be getting this right. Okay, if your questions have been too easy, well, easy is relative, but easy for most people, you can identify what is really easy. That means you're not doing something right. On your examination day, please take your sweet time. The strategies I'll be sharing with you will help you so much, because I use the same thing on my testing day, same method, while I was taking my NCLEX examination. So we are going to run through this quickly. You won't believe me if I tell you that I finished this textbook in 2 months. Why did I use 2 months? Because I was working full time. I had exhausted my annual leave on vacation, so there was no way for me to say, oh, let me take some annual leave to finish reviewing this book, and then let me take another annual leave to prepare for my examination. There was nothing like that. I was working till I took my test. If you need to stay away from friends from now, please do it. Honestly, do what you have to do to pass this examination. You do it once and that's it. I read a chapter every day. I take the practice questions at the end of each chapter. For every question I get wrong, I go through the explanation, the rationales, and the best thing about this textbook is that they give you the testing strategy for each question type. You will be so good with attacking questions. Aside giving a detailed review of each content, detailed review of each systems or topics, they also give you testing strategies for each question types. At the end of reviewing this textbook, you also have a comprehensive test that consists of 75 questions. For me, I took this 75 questions and I think I had 81%. I was doing so well with the questions in the main content, and at the end in the comprehensive test, I don't think that was really a good score for me anyway. When you're going through your Saunders, beside every I-yield topic, every I-yield question, there will be a purple pyramid. Pay attention to these particular ones. Pay very close attention to them. Have a jotter, jot these ones down, write them down, know them. The Saunders is available as hard copy, and you can also get a soft copy. It all depends on you. Please, I also recommend that you finish filling your content gaps, knowing what you need to know before you proceed to purchasing a question bank. Let's say I started studying in December, January. So I was done by the first week in February. I was done with Saunders. Then I purchased and activated my Q bank with UWorld. So we are on the step 3, which is practicing questions using testing strategies. You need to make use of all the strategies I will give you even as you're practicing. I used UWorld and I highly recommend UWorld. Highly recommend UWorld. UWorld is beautiful. UWorld is rich. We're going to talk about the upside and the downside of UWorld. We're going to compare this against actual review. I'm going to give you 8 upside. The first is UWorld interface is very similar to the interface for the real Nclex-Rn examination, and this sort of reduces your test day anxiety. Number 2 upside is it contains 100% of high-yield Nclex questions. Get onto that exam and you'll be like, have I seen this before? Trust me, and it's not because you have actually seen the question before, it is because UWorld is good. I was going through UWorld, I'm like, these people are so passionate about helping you pass this exam. It shows, like, you can feel it in how they word the question, how they explain. You are literally tested on everything that you need to pass your Nclex-Rn. The next upside is that their questions are worded exactly like what you will see, the way you will see it. You're so familiar, you're not scared when you see a question. You're not part of those people that comes out of the exam and say, oh, it was so vague, it didn't look this. You're not part of them because you have used a wonderful Q bank. Fourth upside, you can easily mark difficult concepts. Copy the QID and put it in the search button. That question pops up and you can review that particular question over and over again until it sinks. The fifth upside is the explanation. The rationale for each question is super rich and excellent. So detailed, it just sinks. They explain it in such a way that anybody can understand. They also provide you with images. I'm an audio, visual, and non-verbal kind of learner. So I learned using the three methods, and this is what UWorld incorporate into their Q bank, which is amazing. You can track your progress also. You have a feature where you can track your performance, so you can identify your weak and strong areas. Definitely you'll be able to determine which area you need to focus more on. You have access to up to 2 assessments. This assessment checks your readiness for the examination. At the end of my UWorld review, I took the assessment a week to my examination and I had 70%. The downside to UWorld is that UWorld is expensive. I purchased 2 months and 1 assessment for $168. Expensive is relative, but most people think that's expensive. For me, that $168 is worth it. I mean, UWorld is worth every dollar you put on it. I did UWorld for about 2 months. I started after I finished the content. Okay, we're going to dive in really quick into how I use UWorld. Now, compared to Archer, let me talk about the upside of Archer. It's relatively cheap. Everyone can afford Archer. It's so cheap. And they give you loads of mnemonics and lots of memotics. UWorld also gives you this, but not as much as what Archer does. So they are very good with this. Another upside for Archer review is that you can create several CATs that you want. So you also have assessment, reviews your readiness for the test. The downside to Archer is I believe that they don't review all the questions. How am I able to say this? Because I reviewed Archer at some point. I believe they don't review all the contents that you need to know. So you cannot review only Archer and think that you know everything. Trust me, anyone telling you they only use Archer are lying to you. It's either they are on a WhatsApp group that's dropping several questions every day that they are reviewing. And most of these questions are usually from UWorld. You guessed right. Do your own research and do what you have to do to pass your examination. How did I use UWorld? I got 2 months subscription. Cost me $168 I mentioned earlier, and 1 assessment. So the Q bank is about 2157 questions. They've included the new generation Nclex, and the best thing about it is that at the end of each question type, they'll tell you how it will be scored. So you have an idea of how it will be scored, which I activated after I finished my content review, after I finished Saunders. Every day, I practice close to 160 questions every day with tutor mode off, timed mode off. The examination itself is about 4 hours 59 minutes for 145 questions long. But because it's a computer adaptive test, you can be stopped when the computer has determined the confidence level as being maybe greater than 95%. So once the computer is satisfied with your confidence level, it will shut down. Mine shut down at 75 questions. For some people, they go as far as 80, 100, or even taking the whole 145. Be prepared to take so much, and this is why you need to build your stamina. This is the reason why I practice up to 160 every day. You need to practice feeling like you're actually taking your tests. Forget about the time and take your time with your practice questions, because the idea is for you to learn. Don't rush. As you continue to practice, with more practice you will get better at it. I do 4 sets of 40s. 4 sets. 40. The first 2 sets is all. Before, UWorld had a feature where you just select all, but now they have a separate, so you can select incorrect, correct, unused, used, and other option. You can put them all together to make your all. First two sets is going to consist of everything, if all of the subjects, all of the topics, all of the question types. And the next 240s, you will start with a system that has more questions or loads of questions that can come up from it. Is cardiac safety and infection control, mental health, GI, that's gastrointestinal system. These are systems that have a lot of questions that can come up under them. So start with these ones. I started with cardiac. That is how I use it every day until I exhausted cardiac, and then I moved to another topic. I want you to try as much as possible to finish UWorld if you can. I didn't finish it because I didn't have more time. I finished my UWorld to 93%, completed it with 84%. At the end of each 40 set of questions, I have 7 minutes break, and then you go for another 40. This is quite similar to when you will get your break on the real Nclex tests. Good. So at the end of my review, I go through the whole test. Do it if you have time. I go through the whole question, and this is after my 4 sets of 40s, after 160. Not that I finish 40 and then I stop and review it. No, I do the whole 160 and then I review each one of them. So when I had so much time, I reviewed the whole tests. But if you don't have time, just simply, this is why it's good that you build your content first. So simply review the ones you got incorrect and the ones that you marked as maybe difficult, or it was difficult for you to answer them. These are the ones that you should spend more time on. I forgot to mention one thing about UWorld. You can create flashcards of concepts that you want to know better and you want to really stick and it's not sticking. So you can create flashcards of all of this, which, I mean, I didn't use that feature. At the end, I reviewed the whole test. Like I said, I read the explanation and the rationale, the educational objective very well. Make sure you understand it. My final review of the Q Bank, I finished with 184%, like I said earlier, and by the time I took my readiness assessment, I had 70%, which is a very, very high chance of passing the real Nclex examination, which I took just a week before my test dates. Let me show you some papers. Jotter, I wrote on top of it MJ accrued. So every time I'm opening this jotter, I'm motivated, thinking about the bigger picture. These papers you're seeing with me, these papers, see, these are papers that I use when I'm taking my tests. I use them when I'm taking my tests. This was the same exact thing, the exact thing I did on my real test dates. So I'm going to tell you what this paper is about very shortly. So my testing strategies, tips and tricks. The first universal tip that works for everything, works all the time, that is the first thing that you do, is elimination. First step to attacking your question is for you to read the question from the last part of it. The last part is the one that has the question mark in front of it. What should the nurse do? What should the nurse do next? The last part of the question. Read it and determine if they're asking you for incorrect answer, or they're asking you for correct, or they're asking you for highest priority. You just need to determine what they're asking you, okay, with that last part, and write it down. So once I look at a question, most questions are either it's asking for incorrect, correct, highest priority, most likely, most correct, So I just write in my paper here, I write in my paper here, see, I write correct, and then I start my elimination method. So after you've decided you've read the last part and determine what you're looking for, then you look at the other part of the question and put it in your own word. And like I said, most of it, just write, put it in your own word, simplify it, get rid of all the big grammars and simplify it in your own word to determine what the question is really asking. This will save you time, because you realize that while you're taking your test, by the time you start reading the question from the first line and you get to the end, you go back and say, wait, what did they ask again? By the time you go to option 1, you're like, what did they even ask again? This will save you all of that hassle. So this is the method. This is the same thing, exact thing I did on my test date. Trust me. For people that are bothered about calculation, you have a calculator. Same way you have it on your UWorld. You'll be provided with a paper, a notepad, and a marker pen that you can use to jot things down and do exactly what you've been doing during your practice. How does the elimination method work? You go to the fourth option, compare it with your third option, and make a decision between these two. Once you pick one, strike the other one out. Write it here. If you have looked at 4 and 3, note it, write it down. If you have marked 3, if you have selected 4 out of 3, strike 3 and leave 4. And then go to option 2 and 1, compare them and make a decision between these two also. So it's going to leave you about just 2 options. Between these 2 options, go through 2 of them again and select your answer. If you're very close, trust me, when you're practicing UWorld is sort of more difficult than the real examination. So it will be easier for you to eliminate in your examination once you know what you're doing. Once you make a decision, if you're having trouble making a decision between 2 answers, there are other strategies that can help you select the right answer. This is going to leave you with 2 options, right? And you want to decide which one is the correct one. Usually, most of the time, the odd one out is usually the correct answer, and it might also be the wrong answer. So usually the odd one out is actually the correct answer. When you're stuck between 2 most correct answers, identify the one that has close-ended words. Close-ended words like all, only, every, etc. Identify them. That one is between the 2. That's probably the wrong answer. Every component of your answer must be correct. Every component, every part of it. So not that maybe part of it is right, part of it is correct. If part of it is right and part is incorrect, you have to eliminate that answer. It's not the right one, okay? Because every part of that answer must be correct for it to be the right answer. Look out for the umbrella option. What's the umbrella option? Umbrella option is simply the option, that entails every component of the rest of other options, which makes it the best answer, right? So that is the umbrella option. Let me note this quickly for you. To read more about your testing strategies, go through Saunders. At the back of your Saunders, or at the end of your Saunders textbook, you have testing strategies identified there. UWorld doesn't exactly give you testing strategy, they just give you the content, but Saunders gives you testing strategies. For your SATA, which is the select order apply question, this one is similar to what we just discussed. You comparing and using the elimination method and comparing one option to the other is very similar. However, in addition to that, options that are comparable or alike, they're similar, is either both of them are correct or both of them are incorrect. So look out for these words. Trust me, by the time you practice with Saunders, you'll be used to these strategies. Testing strategies, especially for prioritization. Prioritization was one part that I actually found difficult while I was studying with UWorld, but in the exam, it was so easy to identify. So usually there are words for you to watch out for that lets you know that you are on a prioritization question, like most correct, next, first, best, most likely, highest priority, etc. On your Nclex, you will see different question types. You will see analysis question, you will see the freebies. These ones are the ones that if you don't know it, you don't know it. You will see the ones that are content-based questions, that they are similar to freebies. If you don't know your content, you might not be able to answer those questions. And you will also come across the common sense questions, the ones that you just need to use your common sense. Reviewing your Saunders will help you to identify the different types of tests, what's been tested, the ones that are analysis based and the ones that are just content based, and it will just build you for your examination. I'm giving you the best of the best materials, trust me. The general, very popular rule for your prioritization, ABC. ABC is the universal rule also, but it doesn't work all the time. And that's why we also have Maslow's hierarchy of needs and we have your common sense. So in some situation, the first thing you're doing is definitely not A, B, C. We have A, B, C. We have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have the nursing process. You have your CAB for the cardiac issues, cardiac arrest. You have expected versus unexpected. You have acute over chronic. Let you see each question types. Look at it and say, this prioritization, which strategy am I using for it? Which one will work best? You write which one is going to work for which question and you go through it. If ABC is not working, jump to nursing process. If nursing process is not working, jump to Maslow's hierarchy. Getting the expected versus unexpected content is very important for you to know this, because if you don't know content, how do you know what is expected and unexpected? As you practice, you will really get to know these testing strategies better. On my test day, I used a simple mnemonic, think ASAP. I wrote it down. I'll tell you what ASAP is on my notepad, the one that was given to me. First, A is ABC. S is safety. This examination is mostly based on safety. They want to know if you can keep their patient safe. The other A stands for assessment. P is physiological. Conclusion, it's important for you to know your content. Reinforce your learning every day. It is okay to use multiple sources of information, but let them be multiple valid source of information. Stop making excuses. Focus on your examination. Focus on preparing. This period, set it aside for your examination. Not let your test date tell you when you're ready. Don't let it. I mentioned to you guys that I changed my test dates like 4 times. So don't let your test date tell you when you're ready to take the Nclex. You will decide when you're ready. You will know, you will definitely know when you're ready. Be ready to go 145. So don't start saying, let me just prepare for 75. Please, so prepare for 145. Prepare yourself mentally to take 145 so that when you get to 75 and it's not stopping, you don't start freaking out. Brace up and keep going. You are still in the game as far as that computer is still giving you questions. Learn the testing strategies. Important ones are the ones that I have given you. Use them every time as you practice. Use them. Learn the different patterns, learn the different kind of questions, learn how to tie things together. And this is simply critical thinking. When you're analyzing, you're tying things together. So that is because you know that concept. Ask yourself this question as you study. Think like an examiner, that if I'm an examiner, what kind of questions will I generate from this system? That kinds of prepare you for the kind of questions that you can be expecting from that particular system. Follow your gut. Most of the time your gut is right. Don't overanalyze on your test date. It's not as difficult as it's been talked about. It's what everybody knows. Sometimes I ask myself, if I'm in a test right now in the hall, what do I think every other person will pick? I pick the answer and then I'm correct. Keep pushing, trust God, have a plan, have a study plan, and stick to this study plan. Don't divert from it till you take your Nclex-Rn examination. See you next time. Cheers.